Guys, if you ask the Iranians, they've won the war, and now it's time for them to strike back against Israel. You're not imagining, even though Israel and the U.S. in 12 quick days destroyed Iranian defenses, brought down the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, their nuclear program, and many, many other targets, they now are claiming, Yair, that they won and that revenge is underway.
And they're threatening Israel. They're threatening the United States. They are threatening President Donald Trump personally with the drone strike. And at the same time, we hear of mysterious explosions all across Iran. And they claim it's gas leaks, electricity problems.
Victory celebrations likely.
Yeah. I don't know. It sounds very, very fishy, and it sounds very similar to the Israeli Mossad operations that happened in the past. But, of course, we have no official confirmation of anything, and the Iranian regime claiming it's all malfunctions and poor management of property, hazardous materials, and gas and electricity malfunctions.
So here's what we're going to try to do today on the TBN Israel podcast, guys, is we're going to try to break down and split between imagination and propaganda and the reality of what the Iranians are trying to do. Because the truth here actually lies somewhere in the middle. The Iranians have been trying to get revenge. The Iranians have been trying to get a symbolic victory over Israel and the U.S. targets, not just the country, but also outside of the country in other places around the world. And there is a huge debate over what the win actually means against Iran, whether or not they were beat or not, and whether or not they're able to retaliate or not. But before we get started, let's pause for just 1 second. See, Tomo, we can learn.
All right, thank you.
Guys, if you're sitting at home right now and you've made it 2 minutes into this podcast, well, stop for just a second. We'll still be here when you get back. And like, share, and subscribe. Do it in that order because it works. It helps get the truth out from Jerusalem to everyone around the world. It has helped us reach an audience that is far greater than we imagined in the last 18 months. And we are reliant on you sharing this information to help grow this channel. The growth brings more sponsorships in, it reaches audience, it helps spread the truth and turn away and cancel out the lies that are being spread, and there are a lot of them.
Lots of lies, yeah. If you just open the international media like BBC, Al Jazeera, and other, big networks, all you hear is like negative stuff about Israel. Doesn't matter if it's based on truth, based on facts, but that's the narrative that you see everywhere, and we're here to give you the truth of what's happening. Sometimes it's good stuff for Israel, sometimes it's bad stuff for Israel, but this is what's happening, and we encourage you to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, for the situation, and that's our mission at TBN Israel. It's not just me and Mati, we have a huge team here. We have Tomer, who's like one of the major engines behind this channel. We have people in the technical level 2 floors below that are making sure we sound professional and nice, and our voices are amplified
as much as possible.
And of course, they work on Mati a lot to make him look this good.
Less shiny.
In real life, he looks a lot less good.
I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that's possible, Yair. Anyway, so to get to our point, thank you, Yair, for keeping us on track.
What are we talking about? Iran, yes.
Today, you were talking about deception. Today, we're talking about one of the biggest liars of our lifetime, the Iranian revolutionary government, a government who has consistently deceived its own people, deceived the global community, and spread lies. And the issue is here, most of these lies are sneaky lies. They're not all-out lies. They're a twist of the truth, a twist of reality, a twist of what's really been happening. And that's what we're really diving into today, is Iran, one, they've been making very, very strong threats of retaliation against Israel and the U.S. And these aren't general threats of rattle saber, like one day we're going to get you kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It isn't that. It's we're going to kill, we're going to assassinate President Trump. We're going to target Tel Aviv. We're going to bring down Tel Aviv. And they'll show images that are generated by AI, of course.
Of bombs, nuclear bombs in Israel. Like the mushrooms of a nuclear bomb in Israel.
Exactly. And they'll do that. And not only that, they've also been trying to take revenge. They've been trying mostly outside of the country, but not only. They've been looking for the Jewish targets, for the American symbolic targets. There have been multiple cells of Iranian terrorists that have been arrested around the world, including in the Middle East, including a couple of weeks ago in Syria.
Syria or Lebanon? I forgot.
Syria.
Yeah.
It was in Syria, where they were close to the border. There was just a unit of Iranian terrorists that were just plucked out of their bed by Israeli special forces and brought into Israel for interrogation. And as far as we know, they're still here being interrogated.
Yeah, well, at the moment also what's happening is that after the strikes, multiple strikes during 12 days of the Israeli Air Force, and then, the cherry at the top with the B-2 bombers of the United States Air Force or Navy or whoever is commanding these bombers, that dropped the bunker-busting, MOB, right? MOP, I forgot the name. Massive Ordnance Penetrator. Yeah. So after dropping these bombs on the nuclear facilities at Isfahan, at Fordo, and Natanz, I'm very proud of myself for remembering the names of the Iranian cities. Then the Iranians are now trying to assess the level of the damage, because we see satellite images of trucks, of construction vehicles that are trying to dig the area and to see how much did these bombs destroy in these underground facilities, and what it takes to start the rehabilitation process. And they are stating openly that they will keep developing the nuclear weapons. They are stating that it's their right and that these attacks will not deter the Iranian people from achieving their goals of nuclear capabilities.
Yes.
And this is all happening as Donald Trump is saying, we've struck Iran, now it's time for negotiations, let's reach a deal. So again, we are at the stage where the international community are waiting for Iran to join the table to reach a nuclear agreement. And in terms of the European parties to this agreement, talking about France, Britain, and if I'm not mistaken, Germany. Yeah, the E3. So they are saying that if Iran does not reach a deal until a certain date, maybe Tomer, do you remember the date?
56 days they have?
No, it's at the end of August.
The end of
August.
Yeah.
End of August.
And there's an automatic snapback mechanism, which takes us back to the 2015 sanctions.
More sanctions start, basically.
That's what that was. Thank you, Tomo, for whatever it was that we had it in the script. I remember for whatever news segment it was. So, you're correct. And I think we need to organize some of our thoughts. There's a couple things happening here. One, Iran is working on improving its image internally of we didn't lose in the way the West is trying to portray it. Because if you listen to President Trump specifically, he portrays a message of complete victory for the U.S. and Israel against Iran. Iran has been defeated. Now it's just a question of time until they come back to the negotiation table. Iran is trying to refute that claim and say, no, we didn't lose in the way you're perceiving. We did sustain a tactical setback, but it wasn't a loss in the full sense of it. Why do they say that? Because we said we destroyed your nuclear program. That's not a zero-sum game. There's multiple pieces to it. We say we caused more damage. They say, yes, but here are the victories that we had against Israeli targets, which is partially true. Living in Israel, we can attest to that fact.
They destroyed an entire neighborhood in the center of Israel with a ballistic missile that landed in Israel and created a huge amount of damage.
Maybe I'd say a city block versus a neighborhood.
City block is smaller?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, we've been there. We've been there. It's like...
it's a lot of damage.
The entire neighborhood has broken windows, cars that are broken, debris from... Shrapnel. Yeah, it's one of my hardest words. Shrapnel. Okay, so that's one thing that they're saying against Israel, and that's their victory picture against the Jewish state.
Yeah.
But in terms of the United States of America, they also launched a barrage of rockets at the U.S. base in Qatar.
Yes.
Of course, they're not telling their own people that they notified the Americans and the Qataris before launching these missiles, so they will be easily intercepted. They're saying that they have succeeded in launching the attack against the American base as well as against the Israeli hometown.
Yes. Yeah, and so that's part of it. The victory question is a big question, and by the way, there is merit to their claim.
They did.
They didn't. This isn't a complete victory or complete destruction. It's somewhere in the middle, and it's a question of in percentages. That's one side. The other side is the retaliation side. They're working at, again, a lot of this has to do with perception. They're working at a game of, are we able to regain some of our lost pride? They admit publicly that they've taken a substantial hit. They've done so repeatedly, and they did so also during the 12-day campaign against them. And now there's a lot of internal pressure within Iran that is saying, let's get back at these people. We want something symbolic, something substantial that will be a good image of a target that was destroyed by them.
Yeah.
It could be a person that was assassinated. It could be a terrorist attack in a Western country. It could be a drone that crashes in Israel and blows up. Something that diverts the conversation from what damage was caused to Iran to what damage was caused to the enemies of Iran, the U.S. and Israel. We know, by the way, and this is important to state, intelligence reports tell us that they tried to assassinate now President Donald Trump while he was a candidate for presidency.
Yes.
At least once that we know of. We know this because Donald Trump said this to the world and promised to retaliate. And you have to imagine what he was thinking when he pressed the red button, so to speak, for the attack in Iran. These were people that actively tried to kill him at least once that we know of, possibly more than that, while he was running for presidency, knowing full well that he'd be a bigger threat to them than the other candidates.
Exactly.
That's one thing. Secondly, they're looking at the Israel question. What can they do to the people of Israel that will cause a substantial, let's call it, uptick in their perception of power? And they're looking at many, many different ways of doing exactly that.
Yeah, exactly. So one way that they're doing that is creating this fear of another barrage of ballistic missiles and closing the Israeli airspace, causing the Israeli government to invest a lot in defensive mechanism and harm the financial side of Israel, as well as the morale of Israel just being under wars for so long.
Yes.
And then there is another side that is very important to look at, which is the Iranians are treating their own people with harsh, actions against their own Iranian population. I'm talking about arrests in the streets of anybody who is even suspected of being collaborating with Israel or having anything to do against the Iranian regime in Iran. And they are, enforcing a very, very harsh, I don't know how to say it, but very, very harsh conditions, policy on their own population. And externally, towards the world, they are projecting, strength by issuing threats against everybody that is actively against the Iranian regime.
Yeah.
So it's a multiple situation. What I understand from the Middle East is that when somebody is barking, it's not necessarily biting. But you have to take them serious when they say they want to kill you.
Yeah, I would say with several players in this region, you have to look at them as thousands of years old empires. The Egyptians, the Iranians, the Turks, they're not the kind of people that disappear overnight, and you need to treat them with respect. I believe Israel, by the way, did. In the way we dealt with the Iranians, we took them at their word and we believed them. And to your point, it's a little more complicated, I think. The Iranians, you need to measure their actions both internally and externally. And there's an equation with an inverse correlation, as in the more the government perceives itself to be weakened internally, the more strength and violence it uses against its population. And we've seen this not in the month of June, but in the month of July, once they sort of gathered the pieces of the brokenness of what happened in the 12-day campaign against them, they started executing people within Iran. And this is...
They arrested 700 and...
No, that was, I think, just in the first days.
Yeah, first day was 700 and the day after they already executed 300 people out of that.
And again, the numbers on what happens within Iran internally usually come out multiple months later, because there's a lot of human rights organizations that have to gather the sources from multiple people, and it takes time to check everything.
They throw them out of cranes in the center.
They hang them off cranes.
Yeah,
hang them off cranes. But they do this for public perception, also to intimidate the public. But more so, you need to understand this: Iran is not just one ethnicity. The Persians are not the only people that live in Iran. They have Afghans, they have Baluchis, they have many other minorities within the country. By the way, they have Sunni Muslims as a small minority in the country. They even have some Jews in the country. Yeah. Not many, but some. And they treat the minorities that they fear with extreme violence. By the way, I forgot the Kurds too. There are some Kurds in Iran. And they treat the minorities with extreme violence when these kind of things happen, because they fear an uprising of the minorities. And you need to understand their mindset. They look at this and they have to regain the control of the people. So they start sometimes in an arbitrary fashion, rounding up people, sort of enforcing a police state situation on the ground and executing people. And some of this, sometimes it doesn't only end with executions. Sometimes they'll just move a group of people. Let's say these people were rebellious or they were unfaithful to the government. Let's expel 10,000 of them and push them out to the desert.
Now, right?
They did it right now.
Uzbekis or
Afghans.
Afghans.
Yeah, they did it now. I think they have like 6 million Afghans in Iran, and many of them in sort of like a refugee status. They just expelled a bunch of them, and you can't really, again, it's sort of like semi-open borders.
It's funny because when we talk about moving population in Israel to take care of
demographic issues,
then we get very, very harsh criticism by the world.
But there's a double standard. By the way, Israel should be upheld to a higher standard than radical Muslim countries, because we follow a much more a religion that cares much more about the life of the people in the country.
Exactly.
Let's be honest here. Look at the outcome of the actions of the different governments. But to the point about Iran, so they're suffering internally and they're wanting to project power. And the second part is when they're making threats. So this happens about 2 weeks ago. Some of these threats are not empty threats. And we've learned the hard way this last war that sometimes we find out a year or 2 or 5 years later what really happened on the ground in different places. For instance, Israel bombed the Syrian nuclear program. What was it? 5 years, 6 years after it happened?
Yeah.
Something like that. We only found out that it happened. It already been destroyed and in ruins for years until, Netanyahu leaked it?
Yeah.
Until Prime Minister Netanyahu leaked what Olmert did before him. Prime Minister Olmert in Israel.
From there,
then it became public. Anyway, so my point is different. Is that there was a moment about 2 weeks ago where the airspace over Iran clears overnight. I'm sure you guys remember this. They made some very strong threats, which they've been doing consistently. We will attack, we will retaliate, we will attack, we will retaliate. Yeah. And then suddenly there's a bunch of flights that are canceled to Iran. The airspace clears. There's some images of this, very obvious that something is about to happen. And behind the scenes, I don't know what happened. I can only speculate. Were the Americans scrambling a bunch of jets to attack in Iran? Were the Iranians, pulling a bunch of missiles out of the bunkers and preparing to attack Israel? And then they got a phone call from President Trump or someone else that said,
it can be.
Don't dare. We have the planes in the air. We don't know. But what we do know is that they've tried. And we know from the little we found out that they've been attempting to retaliate and take revenge against Israel and the U.S. And they need to be taken seriously when they make those threats.
Another very, very interesting, comparison between Israel and Iran in this war is the stock markets of both countries, Mati.
Yes.
When you look at the Iranian stock markets, they were all in the red, all suffering during this war and then going down significantly even afterwards, showing that the investors in Iran and also abroad in this country are pulling out, cutting their losses and pulling out their investment in Iranian stocks. Well, if you looked at Israel throughout these 12 days and up until now, the stock market in Israel is in the green, and it went up and up throughout this war. And
9%.
I think it's 9%.
9%. That's almost $10 million investment in that war. So let's say the war cost us
we don't
30 million.
That's a lot.
On the 12 days, we already returned.
So what I like to see from this point is...
I wish it worked that way.
Me too.
What I liked about this comparison is that people in Israel and around the world are investing in the Jewish state to stay here for many, many generations to come, and not just to stay and survive here, to prosper in the Jewish state, in Israel, in this location. And I think it's also biblical, And our partner for today, Mati, and know the CEO
I know them
personally, so I'll let you share more about them. It's called Wise Money. And what they do is they enable you guys back in America or somewhere else around the world to invest in the Israeli markets, especially now in this time. So maybe you can share, because you know the CEO personally, what they do, and why you think it's a good investment.
Yeah, so there's two sides to this. One, and you set this up beautifully, now's the time to invest in Israel.
Exactly. It is.
Economics are tied into geopolitics, and Israel's on the up and up, and our enemies are going down. So now's the time to invest in Israel. Secondly, even before this war and unrelated to it, we were a good place to invest in with technology, with startups. The numbers are staggering in Israel, both in technology and in many other fields, including military, defense, biotech, medtech. There's a whole lot of fields where we're industry leaders. Not all, but many fields that are really worth investing in. And the third part is these are good people to invest with. I know Evan, the head of the company. I know several members of their team. They have a proven track record of bringing good results to their investors. Let's be honest here, investment is a risk, but it's good to take that risk with professionals who have a good track record.
Exactly.
And these are exactly those kind of people. The name is Wise Money. They will help you invest. If you want to find a way to put money into Israel and get a yield on this. This isn't a donation. This is
it's investment. And it's also like an investment in multiple lanes in Israel, like from bonds, from stocks of companies. It's not just one company. It's a combination of stocks in Israel that are part of the growing mechanism of the Jewish state.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a good investment, especially it helps also Israel to rebuild itself, help these companies jumpstart and get some funds to move to the next stage after this almost 2 years of war. And if you want to join and invest, you go to wisemoneyisrael.com/TBN. Again, wisemoneyisrael.com/TBN. Can you say that maybe without the Hebrew accent, Mati?
wisemoneyisrael.com/TBN, all one word, except for the slash part.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. That's a great way to be part of Israel, I think.
Yes.
Check in on your stocks.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so one thing I want to talk about now is following the multiple ballistic missiles that were launched against Israel, Israel learned. I mean, we had some missiles that were able to penetrate, but all in all, we were at an 85% interception levels of Iranian attacks. Tomer, am I correct? This is the number?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have used...
Wait, you think across the board in the entire season?
In the 12 days.
In the 12 days,
12
there
days
was
war.
18 hits in Israel.
Out of how many launches?
Almost.
So what, 90 what percent?
Supposed to be
85?
85.
85 to 89%.
Yeah, not 95.
No.
Yeah, and Israel, currently, let's go do a brief of the anti-rocket defensive systems. I'll start with the short range to the long range. So first of all, we just launched the laser beam, which is pretty cool. It's like...
Apparently, it's been operational throughout the war.
It is. Yeah. But just officially been cleared for publication.
On ships and tanks.
Somewhere out there, there's some guy who keeps telling his wife, I'm telling you, I saw the lasers last night.
Yeah, right.
No. I looked it up. It's only experimental. And meanwhile, he sees like, bzz, bzz, he sees the lasers frying rockets in the sky. And everyone's, no, you're dreaming again. You're dreaming again.
No, it's just amazing technology. And the coolest part about it, that it's so cheap compared to intercepting a missile using the Iron Dome.
Yeah, it's like
anti-rocket defense.
It's a couple dollars.
It's a couple of dollars.
Less than
electricity.
Yeah, just the electricity cost, to do it.
There is a soldier with a phone charger.
Frying the Iranian rockets. So that's for closest range, meaning against mortars, against short-range rockets from Gaza, from Lebanon.
Yeah, or the final phase of a rocket.
Or the final phase, like the debris that are from the fragments that broke off the main rocket.
Yeah, or possibly if like something, the worst happened and the warhead made it almost in, the laser wouldn't take it. There's Iron Dome would possibly take care of this.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah,
okay. It has some pluses and minuses, but all in all, the major plus is that it's very cheap and effective against rockets. It's not so effective when it's cloudy and rainy. This is the only minus. Then you have the anti-rocket defense system that is called Iron Dome. Okay, Iron Dome is against, medium-range rockets and also short-range rockets, and they are working together with the laser to make sure the rocket is intercepted. The good part, it's like 95% success rate so far in this war. It's above what the manufacturer is claiming. And the bad part, it's a bit expensive compared to the rockets that are launched at us.
Can I make a comment about the statistics? Because I know people are going to comment on this in the comments. it's a combined interception rate.
Yeah.
So when we say we intercepted 85% of the rockets, that doesn't mean that 8.5 out of every 10 rockets that are launched to intercept hit a target. It's of every 10 rockets that try to make it in, 8.5 are intercepted on the way. Sometimes multiple interceptors are used per rocket that comes in.
And sometimes also we let them come in because we know the trajectory of the rocket will land in open areas. So we don't even try to intercept it.
Did we do that with we did. In the Palestinian Authority.
We did that, yeah.
Yeah, because there were ones that hit outside the state of Israel proper, that hit in open spaces in Judea and Samaria, Jordan, and I'm guessing some fell somewhere in the desert on the way. Well, I know they did. I just don't remember where they were.
In the multiple Iranian rockets.
So anyway, just to say this, because many of these weapon systems, their declared accuracy is about 50%.
Wow.
It makes sense. Look, I remember this. We were standing out when we looked at this. I was in reserves, but out on a mountain.
You see multiple interceptions.
And I couldn't believe it. How effective the missiles are. You see them fly. I don't know how fast they're flying. They're flying multiple times the speed of sound. And you just see the interceptors leave somewhere in central Israel, and they fly out of the atmosphere. And then you see the interceptor chasing the missile. Chasing the missile in space. It is mind-blowing. And to see that, forget 50% of that's amazing in itself.
Exactly, it's not such a big thing at these speeds.
It's unbelievable. It's so just to say, it's a combined effort of multiple systems, which is how missile defense systems work.
Yes, it's like multiple layers of defense, like the domes.
It's the onion of defense.
And before you get on, here's what the Iranians are sort of hinging on. They're making a point of our numbers improved throughout the war, which is true.
It is.
They got better at understanding how to penetrate Israeli air defenses.
From 10% to 18%.
Yeah, it's substantial. It's double.
Yeah, when each rocket can cause so much damage.
Yeah, and they were able to cause damage in the late days of that campaign.
In the last day.
Last hour. Yeah. But also, Barzilai was the day before.
Yeah, wow.
Was that when it was announced? Just hours before the ceasefire went into effect, they launched the last barrage.
Some and northern Tel Aviv. I think the biggest damage happened in the last 2 or 3 days of the war, and they weren't launching that many. They got a lot more effective in what they were doing, and they make a really big point of saying, here's part of our victory in this, and we learned, and we want you to know that if we're going to go for another round, we're going to be able to replicate those numbers, not the first day numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is important.
Exactly, yeah. Well, the next layer of defense is the David Sling, which is medium to long range anti-rocket defense system. Then on top of that, you have the Arrow 1, 2, 3 that are against long range missiles. And now Israel is developing the Arrow 4. Right, Tomer?
Yeah.
It's going to be operational. We don't know exactly when.
Soon, and immediately after that, they're getting the 5 out.
Arrow 4 and 5. It's like iPhones for us, basically, right? Every season you get another.
I don't like this. This missile don't have the new update.
I hope it takes them longer to develop it. They have a new iPhone every year. I hope it takes them longer to develop
that. See what the Chetz Arba have.
Well, at least this is kind of the situation in Israel. We have to be fast. We learn from the capabilities of our enemies as we fight. It happened in the Gaza Strip that we learned how to battle the Hamas tunnels. We learned how to battle the anti-tank mines that Hamas used. We learned how to operate within the civilian population. And same goes to the attacks from Yemen, that at the moment, if you hear a missile from Yemen coming, you say, it's a missile from Yemen. But then the missile from Iran was like a bigger deal because it came in volumes. It had like a warhead that actually has explosives in it and not just concrete warheads like the one that was landed next to me in the Natbag, in the international airport. And we learn fast, and this is the Israeli mind, I think. Use the struggles into developing technologies that can help us survive in this region.
Absolutely. The Arrow 4 can take down when the head is like becoming a double head.
I see what you mean. Yeah, because the Iranian missiles had the ability to like explode midway, and then they create multiple warheads that were falling down on Israel, which makes it very hard to intercept all 4 warheads or more.
So the Aero 4 know how to deal with those, for
Yeah.
example.
Well, that's a good upgrade. Yeah.
And you have a
That's
cooler
complicated.
camera, probably.
Very complicated. So, better camera.
And it has a GoPro camera attached to it at the hand. You can post immediately to social media like Trump likes to do.
Anyway.
Bomb them hard.
So back to this question. So the Iranians are making threats. We've seen throughout the war that their ability to hit Israel has increased. It's still much lower than what they'd like, but still, it got a lot better. And they're not out of missiles. 2, there's a really big piece here, which is we're sort of in a holding pattern, waiting for this, I don't want to say the conflict to resolve, but let's call it the political side of this conflict to be resolved sometime soon. Mm-hmm. And we've been in this ever-escalating series of threats from either side. We're now, just last week, a bunch of European countries, as you mentioned previously, now they're threatening the Iranians too.
Exactly.
So it's from every area, military, political, financial, pressure on the Iranians and several other countries in this region to reach an agreement. Mm-hmm. And the hope is that is sufficient to force them into it. But at the same time, we don't know that that's going to work. They've shown on their end that they're willing to repeatedly suffer greatly and cause a lot of suffering to their people to gain the goal of bringing damage to their enemies or at least maintaining power. And in that sense, we have to take them very, very, very carefully, take the relationship with Iran. They're not people to be trifled with. They're a very serious adversary. And even after 12 days of attacks there, they still maintained a lot of their power and some of their military capabilities. Mm-hmm. They didn't lose them all.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that they did lose a lot of their leadership, but then new members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards took the place of the former leaders.
Yes.
And according to reports, many of them are even more radicalized than their predecessors.
Yeah.
So can be even worse, and they can even act irrational against these sanctions from the European Union, against these sanctions from America, and against Israel. Yeah. So we're going to have to wait and see what's happening in this situation.
It's a rough situation.
Yeah. And I think the danger really comes from the Iranian Revolutionary Guards against Jewish symbols in Europe, in the United States, against American symbols outside of the region of the Middle East. I think that's what they are planning for, because I doubt that they want to sustain additional direct impacts by Israel or by America or by France, Britain, Germany, and other countries in this region directly to their soil.
No, what they're going to try to do is just maximize how long they can prolong and stretch out the negotiations and how much they can gain internally. And it's interesting, again, you never really know till after the fact what's been happening on the ground, but it seems like the damage to their nuclear program has been sufficient for them not to try to restore it in recent weeks. We've seen evidence of them exploring what's going on underground.
Yeah, exactly. Like excavating archaeological sites of the nuclear facilities.
But not fully going back into production.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It shows you that they've calculated the risk. And at the moment, it didn't
not
make
worth
sense
to rebuild just yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's wait for us to have kind of an agreement so it will be something that the world will not allow Israel or the United States
or wait for the U.S. to divert their attention elsewhere so they don't bomb them immediately again.
Immediately, exactly.
Yeah. It's an interesting situation. And I think many of these conversations, they end with the same takeaway, which is we just need to really, really hope that our governments are unbelievably wise and guided by God, because these are some long-term issues that really take a lot of finessing to figure out. There's no quick fix here. We're not removing the Iranian government tomorrow. That's not happening.
Do you think we still have drone factories in Iran?
Maybe. I don't know. Mossad probably still has assets.
Right? For sure. I bet we have more assets now that the prisons were taken, and now there's more opposition to Iran.
Yeah, but also the government is now on its
cracking down on anything Israel related. Yeah.
No, and they're fighting for their life. And when they're doing that, they're willing to take risks that they weren't willing to before. They've already been exposing their weakness. Now they're willing to do almost anything to maintain that power. And because of that, they're far more dangerous than they were previously, both for any opposition force, but also for Israel.
Yeah, exactly. And a very, very important point is Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He was hiding in the bunker, Mati, for a few days after the 12-day war. And he was playing recorded videos of him threatening and, saying these victory marches and speeches. Do you think that he'll be with us for long in this earth?
I think he's
86.
I was saying he's
Right?
at the point where it's likely going to be natural causes, and we've talked about this here. Israel is in a bit of a dilemma when it comes to removing that type of leadership, because again, Iran is a country that's been holding together a lot of internal tension and external tension for many, many years. And when you break that leadership structure dramatically, definitely by removing the head, you don't know what you're getting next.
Yeah, it
If
could
at
be a
all.
lot worse. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you might not have a leader. That might be part of the
And
problem.
then there's nobody to do a deal with. And if the goal now, it looks like it is, to reach some kind of a deal with Iran, then who's going to sign the deal if the country is all broken up to pieces?
Yeah, and people need to remember, all these countries, and especially nations as big as Iran, it's not like they have one voice that speaks on behalf of everyone. There are factions. I can guarantee there are factions within the Iranian government who are calling to try to build a dirty bomb.
Exactly.
I can assure that.
For sure.
I've heard multiple intelligence analysis that say exactly that. That there are people internally that are saying, now is the time to strike back at Israel. We've already lost so much. Let's regain some of our, of our international
Honor or something, yeah.
honor or respect. Let's do it. Let's go out with a bang, kind of thing. What's the worst that can happen? And I assure you, those voices exist within Iran, as they do in other countries.
Definitely.
So they're not necessarily done. They're a huge nation that has vast resources and vast land and population. You don't end them overnight. And then where do you go from here? If they can't be eliminated, you're always managing this relationship.
Yeah, managing the situation, but not like there's no complete victory.
I'd say one positive thing that I've seen in recent weeks is that it seems that for once, I actually say it's in probably multiple months, the entire Western world is much more clear on the place that Iran is going. In the sense that both European countries, the U.S. and Israel, are all clear, no nuclear program,
Exactly.
period.
Yeah.
There's no negotiation over maybe a little, maybe for peace purposes.
60%, 75% uranium enrichment.
I mean, it's even to the point where...
we send the nuclear watchdog.
Exactly. I mean, even the Europeans are more hawkish than the U.S. government is.
Exactly.
Calling for, immediate sanctions against them. And then I think there's one, this isn't in our script, but, one thing that I think is interesting, which is Russia. And Russia, if you follow the pattern of what they've been doing in recent weeks, they move in and out of this position of being on the side of the Iranian government
And not.
and being on the American side facing the Iranian government, like almost calling the Iranian government, guys, be cautious, guys, collaborate, cooperate, listen to what the Americans are asking, etc. And then I've heard several people I respect float this conspiracy theory, I guess, which is there's another play happening here in the background, and that play is Russia-Ukraine and the U.S. And it's possible because we saw this happen with Syria, we saw this happen with, there was one more thing.
Egypt?
Yeah, in one of the negotiation rounds with Hamas, and where Russia sort of steps in suddenly and says, "Oh, I want to be part of this conversation too."
Yeah, exactly.
They're always doing it at a time where they need the favor of the U.S. government, or they're working another angle. So there might be a play here, this is somewhere in the future, where Russia's part of the agreement with the Iranians, removing their nuclear program, and they get some kind of stake in the new agreement in the Middle East, but they will only do that if there's a play that's involving also the Ukraine.
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting thing to see, because the U.S., if you think about the map of threats that the U.S. is dealing with, there's 3 key areas in the world. Well, maybe 4. There's the internal U.S. and let's call it North-South America issue, which is a lot of it has to do with immigrants and stuff like that, which is both political and a practical problem. They have the Russia-Ukraine war, which is almost like a Cold War replay of our alliance against your alliance. There's the Middle East, Israel, Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, Iran. And then there's one more big, really, really big one, which is China and the South China Sea as it relates to Taiwan. That's a really big thing. And they can't and don't want to be fighting all of those conflicts at once. There have been multiple attempts to reel the Russians in to a deal that envelopes both this region and the Ukraine story. And if that happens, we might see something, because we're talking, Tomo, I mentioned a deadline at the end of August. The end of August is not far enough for an agreement about a nuclear program. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic here.
Trump said yesterday that they know what happened if they...
It was farther away than yesterday, Tomo.
Let's check exactly how much time they gave them.
No, they gave them till the end of August.
Yeah.
And Trump said, well, maybe we don't want to negotiate. Maybe we don't want to negotiate because we've given them such a hard blow. Let's see what they have to say instead of you offering them these easy terms.
Yeah.
But the point being is there might be something really surprising that happens here, where all of a sudden there's a deal that we don't understand where it came from, and Russia's going to be part of that. Russia or possibly Saudi. I'd look out for that. So I think it's really interesting in that trend of we don't know what's happening underneath the surface, and what will happen is going to be something big and fast. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to that because we need to resolve this issue. There's no way around it.
Yeah, definitely. I just hope that there won't be another round of Iran launching missiles at Israel, Israel launching airstrikes against Iran, Iran launching missiles against Israel. We won. That's it. You know, like we had it already 3 times so far.
No.
Trump said yesterday that Iran want to talk, but I'm not in a rush right now.
Yeah. Well,
yes,
it's not in a rush. That's I guess that's good, because the continuation to what he said is that because we struck their facilities.
Yeah.
So there's no immediate threat of a breakout to a nuclear bomb within weeks.
But look, the Israeli and American statements on this topic are very, very different. The U.S. claims, and they've done this the same with the Houthis, we won, ceasefire achieved, they've been beaten, you know, they'll cooperate, and it lasts about a week. And then they wake up and they're like, look, we're not actually hurt that bad. We've seen what the worst of the worst is. Let's go back to war. And the Houthis did that. It lasted 3.5 weeks, something like that, the ceasefire that they had. And the Iranians it didn't even last that long for them to be saying, we're not afraid, we're not hurt, we're actually the winners of all of this situation.
Exactly.
Yeah. Where do we go from here, Yair? This is a lot to take in.
Yeah. Well, I think that Israel is doing the right steps by developing the next level of anti-rocket defensive systems, because imagine what this war would look like without all of these defensive systems that we had. Imagine each of these rockets would land and destroy a few buildings in Israel. It would have been catastrophic on us. This would have been a completely different situation in war. I think that people don't realize the amount of rockets that was launched towards Israel.
Very substantial.
In this war. It's just like, I think that every meter of the country would be hit with a rocket if you just, put the number of rockets and missiles and mortars and stuff that were thrown at us for 650 days.
We would have lost entire segments of cities.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's just unimaginable. And I think that because of the defensive capabilities that we have, people think, this is not such a serious war. Imagine Paris being attacked by
300 ballistic missiles.
Exactly.
Or 1,000 ballistic missiles and drones in the same times in the first evening.
This is a substantial war that we're going through, and we're sitting here, talking, smiling. I think it's a combination of the resilience and also God's grace, also on a mental level for the people of Israel, for me and you, We've been in Gaza, on the border with Lebanon, in Judea and Samaria. We've been with our families in bomb shelters multiple times a day for long periods of time in this war. And we're still smiling. We still planning.
We didn't sleep for nights and nights and nights because of...
And we're still smiling. We're planning the future. We're planning the kids' school. We're now in the middle of the summer, and everybody's like thinking, okay, what am I going to do to spend this time with my kids? How can I do something good in this very hot weather? So life goes on, and it's a miracle.
It's also a sign of insanity to a certain degree. Let's be honest here. We went through a season, and I'd say if people are always asking, people do ask us about the topic of prayer. Pray for the kids of Israel. It's a lot easier for us, the adults, to sort of cope with everything that happened. It's not that easy for the kids. It takes a lot of understanding to frame this crazy reality we lived in. I realized the other day, like my youngest, who's turning 10, he hasn't had a single year of normal school in his life.
Wow.
Not a single year. 3 years of COVID, 2 years of war, and since he entered the school system, he's always been half at home, half working, half in Zoom. It's a very bizarre life that we've lived in for multiple years. For us adults, someone else, who was talking about this the other day? We have people going into the army today that that didn't study in high school, essentially.
6 years or something.
5 years. Think about it, 2.5 years of COVID and 2 years of this war. They go into the army, missing the last 5 years of the education system. I mean, it's not like they didn't learn anything, but they didn't learn proper.
No, definitely not normal.
Not proper. They didn't live a normal life throughout like their formative years of life.
Listen, it has a very strong effect on the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I went on a plane with my daughters and my son. He's too young to understand, but they asked me, the first question when we got on the plane is, where do we go? Where is the bomb shelter on the plane if we hear the siren's alarm?
Yeah.
That was the first question.
On the plane.
On the plane. And that what I answered them and said, no, the plane is evading the rockets. No need to run to a bomb shelter. And this is the reality. And in the United States, there was the ice cream truck siren jingle. And they started to look for the bomb shelter. This is how deep this thing goes.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
I'm sorry I'm laughing.
I know.
I'm sorry I'm laughing.
Other kids shouting ice cream, and Israeli kids searching for a safe room. Yeah.
So it has an effect. So I double down on the pray for the kids for sure.
We say we're not affected till you have the alarm come off on your phone.
Exactly. And you're like,
and your brain gives you like an injection of adrenaline.
Exactly.
A motorcycle can jump me up. A motorcycle from far away.
Makes me happy. But
yeah, I know.
Yeah, Mate came with his motorcycle today and destroyed my boots on the ground recording.
You seem to be stuck on the script in any case. It's okay.
Well, I think looking to the future, we are here to stay. The people of Israel are here to stay. Us here at TBN Israel, we will keep reporting every day because we believe in God's promises to the people of Israel. So we know that we're going to stay here. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. And this is not just a battle of Israel against Iran. This is a spiritual war. And we need your help. How do we fight a spiritual war? We pray because God is listening. And our enemies want to destroy the connection between God and men in general, which is affecting all of us, not just us, the people of Israel. So pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Make it personal. Pray for our team here at TBN Israel that when the rockets are falling, we are recording, we are going live, we are working harder than when there is kind of normal times. Okay, so remember us, remember our families. We have multiple young kids in our team. And make sure to like, share, and subscribe also.
That are the children of members of our team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have multiple kids that are the children of members of our team.
Yeah, we don't employ children at TBN.
Just to clarify.
We're a bit childish over here, all of us.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. I forgot, by the way, remember, my son is at this age that he's mimicking everything he hears, right? So he got into the habit of mimicking the siren's alarm. It's very, very disturbing, yeah. But cute, also cute. Okay. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Join us again next week for TBN Israel, the podcast. Keep praying for Israel. Hit the share, like, leave a comment, and subscribe to TBN Israel.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at